Another way that you can use to change these audio levels in time is by using transitions. Let me go ahead and delete all of these keyframes. And I'm going to go ahead and reset this audio level. And there you go. I'm going to make sure that we have changes in time selected because that is the default. If I expand this, notice that changes in time is selected by default. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out of the timeline so we can see this a little bit better. And I'll move this to the beginning. If I would like to change across time the volume of this track, of this clip, all I have to do is cut at the appropriate time. So I'm going to grab my razor blade and I'll cut, say, right here. I can now change the level of the audio however I want. In this case, I'll lower it, and I'll lower it here as well. And all I have to do now is to add a transition, an audio transition in between what is now considered to be two separate clips. So I'm going to go to the Effects panel, and under Audio Transitions, I'm going to drag a constant power transition, and I'll put it in between these two clips. And I'll zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. This transition is going to gradually go from the level of this clip to the level of this clip. This is identical to using keyframes. If I need to make the change a little bit longer, then I can make the transition longer. If I want to change where it is, I could use the rolling edit tool, etc., etc., etc. I'd like to go over the differences that exist between these three different transitions that we have listed in here. Let's select constant gain. If you click on any transition, just like in video transitions, and you go to the Effect Controls panel, you're going to see some of the settings of this transition, things like duration, etc., etc. I want you to notice that constant gain here has a very linear decay and a very linear attack. In other words, the rate of decay of the sound is even throughout, and the rate of attack of the sound is even throughout. This is a true linear cross-dissolve. Constant power, on the other hand, and I'm going to go ahead and add constant power here, it's not linear at all. In other words, it's giving me a little Bezier curve for both the attack and the decay of the sound. This is a little bit more user-friendly as far as the human ear goes. We humans hear a little bit more like this than we do with a constant gain. Not only that, but I want you to notice where these clips actually meet. Notice that it's a little bit above the level of 0 dB gain. In other words, this is giving me a gain of about 9 dB, and that is because if it's decaying at a linear level and it's attacking at a linear level, when the two of them meet, the actual levels of the audio are going to be a little bit lower. This compensates for that. Finally, we have exponential fade, and I'll add it and then select it so we can see it. Exponential fade fades out the first clip over a smooth logarithmic curve while fading up the second one also over a smooth logarithmic curve. And you can also select the alignment like all the other ones. So this is very similar to the constant power, but instead of being a Bezier curve, it's actually using a logarithmic equation to do the fading. The default transition is constant power, and you can add it by using the shortcut, which is Shift-Control-D on Windows, Shift-Command-D on the Mac. And remember, to add the default transition, the track needs to be selected, and the playhead needs to be near where the edit point is. Using transitions is a very common way of changing the audio levels of a clip, especially when we are not exactly sure where we want the fade-ins and the fade-outs. In other words, if we need to change the time location of this fade, all we need to do is use the rolling edit tool, and voila, now it's happening a little bit sooner, or if I do it the other way, a little bit later. In other words, it's a little bit more convenient than using keyframes. Adding audio effects is just as easy as adding video effects. And you can add audio effects by going to the audio effects folder here and expanding the appropriate ones. In other words, 5.1 effect for surround clips, stereo effects for stereo clips, and mono effects for mono clips. If I expand, I can use all kinds of effects in here. Bandpass, bass, chorus, the crackler, the esser, the hummer, etc., etc. Most of these refer to cleaning up. The one that I would like to use now is a reverb or an echo one, just to give this audio a little bit of room. And I can add it by just clicking and dragging it to the clip. As you can see, I dragged it to both. It's mono, so it's going to the mono. And there you go. All I have to do now is play it and adjust the parameters here in the Effect Controls panel, just like we have adjusted the parameters for any of the video effects that we have used so far. So add it to the clip, select the clip, and go to the Effect Controls panel and start playing with the settings. For reverb, we have settings for custom setup and of course for individual parameters. So you can either change the values with these knobs or type the values however you want, or you can go to individual parameters and use them in here as well. Either way, it's okay. You can play it directly in the timeline, or you can play it by playing the clip directly in the Effects Control panel. Either way is fine. You can click this play button or from here.